Hey there folks, this is Assistant Editor Kurt Bope, and I'm joined by Erica Schaefer of Highland Gardens here in Camp Hill. Today it feels wonderful in here. Unfortunately it's very cold outside yet again. So today we're going to be working on planting a patio garden, a simple potted flower. The goal was vegetables. Obviously we're not ready for that, but Erica will tell us how to adjust things for flowers, for vegetables from flowers. So first off, Erica, I see we got a ton of pots.
Yes, we have pots. Depending on which pot you buy will matter how much you're going to have to water. If you buy plastic pots, the water can't evaporate out as fast, so if you're not a good waterer, a plastic pot is a good choice for you, as opposed to a terracotta pot, which is classic garden stuff, but since the surface is porous, the whole pot is porous, it just evaporates water. The terracotta actually wicks water out of the pot, out of the soil, and you'll have to water more.
Oh, okay.
So this is a really neat look for a garden. It's very garden,
Right.
But you have to be a good waterer.
Oh, so you have to do more work.
You have to do more work to this terracotta pot than you do for this plastic pot. And then the glazed ceramic is more bling for the garden. And since that also has a glazed surface on it, like the plastic pot, it will also not lose as much water out. A zillion different colors that you can choose from. This with this little fancy stripe. And so, depending on what you're trying to grow, right off the bat when you're choosing pots, you may find that you're a better waterer or an underwaterer. You can kind of start compensating.
If you're good about watering, then you have a little more options, but if you're like me and kind of tend to forget or you're away, then you probably should go with something that keeps it in a little bit better.
Helps you out. Yep, got your back.
Now I want to ask you, when do you think now obviously we're having a never-ending winter. When do you think would be a time, roughly, to plant like tomatoes, cucumbers, that sort of thing?
They are so cold sensitive. So Mother's Day-ish is whenever you really start. The old school gardeners would never plant that before Mother's Day.
Okay, that's good.
And some of them not till the end of May, because the winters that used to be like these winters. And then, then it all morphed over in global warming or whatever you want to call it these days.
Right.
The winter that never ends.
Right.
So usually the second week of May, people get antsy though, and usually by the first week of May they start. You just got to watch the forecast.
Okay, awesome.
Yep.
Okay, obviously we have 3 different types of pots here, and then we have a really big one back here.
Yep.
Do you want to tell us a little bit about that one?
Yep. Since you mentioned tomato plants, if you're going to grow tomato plants, you look at this, especially if you're a new garden, you'd be like, oh yeah, throw 3 or 4 tomato plants in here. But a single tomato plant does like this.
Oh wow. Okay.
So this pot is 1 tomato plant.
Wow.
And when you first put it in, you'll be like, oh, you're so cute, I should put more things in. But if you want it to grow and actually produce some sort of a crop of tomatoes, you have to allow for enough root room inside of it. And here we are with a plastic pot.
Okay.
Tomatoes are mostly water, so you don't want it drying out and, overwatering and drying out and overwatering, so that's another way to compensate.
And are tomatoes fairly easy for if the kids want to get involved, that sort of thing? Are they?
Yeah, tomatoes are pretty easy, and especially the cherries.
Cherries,
because that's fun because they get the little miniature tomatoes that they can go pick on their own.
Okay.
And there are different vegetables that are specifically for container gardening that are smaller.
Okay.
If you get a regular cucumber plant, regular cucumber you would put on a trellis, this huge trellis, but they have container cucumbers that get smaller cucumbers or bush cucumbers that would just require less space.
Oh, okay. And we have a couple of, this is
fertilizers, yep. So Jack's Classic, which is my favorite for flower, this is called Blossom Booster. Okay. If you're going to do vegetables or flowers, then we need flowers either way because we need flowers in order to get vegetables.
Okay.
So that Osmocote, so we've got kids, we don't have time to fertilize. You're like, great, fertilizer, yeah, when am I going to do that?
Right.
So Osmocote, the neat thing about this is it's kind of like the old, gobstoppers? Are you old enough to know what gobstoppers are?
Yeah, yeah.
Coating erodes,
okay.
So every time you water, a little fertilizer is happening. So you don't have to mix with water like you do with that, so you eliminate a step. Then, since we're all moving quickly in this organic way, yay, fish emulsion, which is going to make your whole patio smell like you're at the beach.
Okay.
So you want to fertilize before you leave. Because that smell of fish fertilizer kind of just hangs in the air.
I see.
But this is how you do it organically.
Okay. And you have your wand over here.
The magic watering wand. Instead of shooting at your plants with one of those shooters, this has a really nice on-off, and you can just reach down and it does this gentle rain instead of like,
Right, full blast.
you know,
Okay.
full blast
Yeah.
on you. Potting soil should be loose and not hold too much water,
Oh, okay.
and at the same time hold enough water. So cheaper potting soils have a lot of dirt in it, a lot of ingredients that just don't make for good potting soil. The drainage won't be nice, or if you forget to water it, it turns into a brick, and then you never do seem to be able to get it watered again. So if you're buying your potting soil at the dollar store,
Right.
you're getting dollar store potting soil, so you're going to get dollar store results.
I see.
So it
Okay.
doesn't. It's one of those spots where it really doesn't pay to get a cheaper potting soil, because that's the whole life of your plant
Right. Depends
is
on
in
soil.
that soil.
Right. That makes
So,
sense.
um,
So you don't want to cheap out on soil.
you really don't. You really don't. And
So we got
So-
all our supplies.
yeah, we got all our supplies. So I'm just going to run with the terracotta pot. Make sure your pot has a drainage hole, unless you're trying to grow in a swamp, because otherwise the extra water can't come out the bottom, and then you've got a mosquito pit.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you want to avoid that.
Definitely avoid that. If you have a really large drainage hole in the bottom, you can put a piece of pantyhose or a piece of cardboard or something like that across it so your potting soil doesn't come out, but that
Oh,
usually
okay.
isn't the case.
Okay. You usually have
No stones in the bottom.
Okay.
That's very old school, and all it does is make your pot heavier.
Oh, okay.
If you're using good potting soil, you just don't need that.
Okay. Cool. So that's a good
This
key.
came out from, look at these beautiful white roots. These just came out from outside. So here's a little viola. Violas are edible flowers. You can also put them on your salads and freeze them in ice cubes.
Wow.
Yep, and food. When you take it out, you should. This is frozen, so we're not going to actually be able to do this properly.
Okay.
But you'd pull the roots apart a little bit so they know that they have some more soil to go into.
Okay.
And then we're just going to make a little hole and drop her in. If you plant it too deep, the crown of the plant will waterlog and can swamp. So you actually want the top of the plant where the plant stops and
Right.
the roots start
Okay.
to be at ground level.
A little bit up. Okay.
Yep.
That's
yep.
good to know.
And then you don't pack.
Oh, okay. Oh, so don't pack it in.
Pack. You
Okay.
can firm.
Right.
But we're not packing it down,
Not
because the
packing.
reason we're buying wonderful, beautiful potting soil is because there's air spaces.
I
So when you pack the air spaces, and then the water doesn't have any way to travel.
What do you think of? I know there are some, particularly vegetables, some pots that they say you can plant right in the thing. Like you don't even have to take it out. Like they're,
The peat pots?
yes.
Yes, yep, absolutely. You can start in those.
Okay.
But when I put mine in, whenever I've used those, when I put them in the ground, I still give them a little rip.
Okay.
So they
you
can
do
start to
open it.
decompose a little bit faster.
Okay. And I heard that water until it is like, or until it starts to like puddle. Is that too much?
Actually, what's really neat about pots, a lot of people don't know, on these ridges,
Right.
you're supposed to fill the potting soil to that ridge right there and leave the lip.
Okay.
And then when you add that much water to the pot, that's how much water it takes for it to drain down through the entire
Oh,
soil
wow.
mass.
Okay.
So
So
yeah,
basically
you can
water it
water
up to
till it
that.
puddles, and that's a really good way to do it.
Okay.
As long as you don't have some of that cheap potting soil that won't let it drain down through, and then you're waterlogged.
Thank you. And again, this is Kurt Bope. I'm with Erica Schaefer here at Highland Gardens in Camp Hill. Very easy to get to. Very nice store, and they have a lot going on right now. It really makes you feel like spring. So come on out, enjoy spring. Remember, Highland Gardens, Camp Hill, and thanks for watching.